when people say, well, you don't believe in global warming, I say, no, I believe in global warming. I don't believe that human CO2 is causing that warming.
First, what do you think of the idea of carbon taxes in general?
They're another grab for money. Politicians are always looking for ways to get more funding. In the U.S. and in fact the Western world, they're using terrorism and homeland security as a way of taking away people's individual rights and say, oh, we're here to protect you, we're saving you, and the carbon tax is just another money grab. It will not change anything. Just as carbon credits can't change anything because CO2 is not the problem. And in fact, to reduce CO2 in the atmosphere is the worst thing you can do because it's absolutely essential to plant life. And so here they're proposing something that in fact is going to be detrimental, and yet they're saying that they're doing it to save the planet, and people have got to pay for it. It occurs, of course, because of the effective of the propaganda of the people that are trying to say that the industrialized nations are causing problems. And environmentalism, very important. Yes, an important issue. We need to care about it. But it's been taken over by extremists and is being used to bully people and particularly the politicians who don't understand the science. And that's another part of the problem with it. Michael Crichton wrote about the state of fear and the exploitation of people's fears. There's also an exploitation of people's lack of knowledge and understanding, which was part of what Friends of Science were trying to do. And so the politicians, and by the way, what's interesting is off the record, many of them know the science. Many of them understand that the science isn't there, but the environmentalism has become so extreme that if you say, look, hold on a minute, immediately you're identified as not caring about the children, not caring about the planet, supporting these evil oil companies and oil energy companies. So what a lot of the politicians are doing, and we saw it with Kyoto, which they all understood wouldn't do anything and was going to cost money and jobs, and so they put on what I call the cloak of green. They appeared to look like they were being green and environmental, but underneath they knew the realities. And as somebody said, politics is the art of the possible. And so they're practicing the art of the possible. What can we do? But as I said, they also see it as a tax grab. So that combination ends up with these carbon taxes, which will not solve any single thing with regard to the environment. And of course, in the case of British Columbia, I think that what's going on is that the Campbell government is playing this cloak of green game, particularly in BC, which is seen as a very, oh yeah, we're very environmental people out here, and so on. And so I think he's also looking for a legacy. It's the Jean Chrétien thing, looking for a legacy at the end to do things that will make them look good in the eyes of the public. The fact is, Campbell had a good legacy when he turned a province that was have-not into a have province, and now, in my opinion, he's going to squander all of that with this absolutely useless tax that will not deal with anything, and in fact is dealing with the wrong problem.
Moving on to a more positive note, I understand that there's a conference coming up in New York that you will be attending. Can you tell us a little bit about that conference?
Yes, it's a conference being organized by the Heartland Institute without any energy money input, by the way. It's all private funding and foundation funding, and it is a biased conference. I say that I don't know the organizers will be happy with me saying that, but I think biases are only a problem if you're not aware of them. The reason I'm saying it in this case it's a good bias is because the skeptic view, the alternative view, has been excluded from not only the conferences, but from the scientists on the IPCC being excluded and so on. There was a similar conference back in 2006 in Stockholm, but it got virtually no play, and they did allow a couple of the people that are not skeptics to attend, and one of them walked out and said this is a sham. And of course, this is part of the difficulty. Many of us are simply saying, look, let's get a full debate. Let's get all of the facts on the table. So this conference in New York is an attempt to do that. It isn't specifically an attempt to do this, but it does do it, and that is to overcome the argument that the science is settled, the debate is over, and that is absolute rubbish with regard to anything in science, but also to overcome the argument that there's a consensus, the majority of scientists agree, when that is in fact not true. And the consensus numbers they use are primarily from the IPCC of 2,500 members, but less than 300 of them are actually involved in the science part of the IPCC report. And so this conference will address those two things, although it's not being done specifically for those reasons. It's being done to allow a public forum for the scientific view and what's wrong with the science that's being used to force massive changes in the global economy and individual countries' economies and in society in general. And so it's a chance to balance the debate and let people make up their own mind, which has not been allowed to happen.